This episode is not appropriate for children. It contains themes of horror, violence, death, paranoia, discrimination, coarse language, and fire. Specific warnings and their timestamps can be found at the end of the description.
Mark, I found something out today. Nothing's happened here. It's been quiet, which might be scarier than something happening, but Glenn, it's been a few days here since the stuff at Granddad's farm, and I thought I should maybe go talk to him about it. I mean, it was a lot, and I don't exactly have anyone else to talk to get all the chaos out of my brain, to make sure that I didn't just imagine it all. But I went over to his place and he made me a cuppa, and before I could ask him how he was, he said he'd wanted to talk to me. He said, Mark, he said that what happened on the farm the other night wasn't the first time that something like this, that there was an incident about 30 years ago, that it's the thing that Nicole, that it's the bad thing that she won't talk about, the one that made her. Glenn said that 30 years ago there was this incident just on the outside of town, that people got hurt, that people died, that they found bodies, burned bodies, but that there was no other sign of fire. I guess they just thought it was some kind of accident, that no one could really say what happened except for Nicole. And that Mark, she'd said that there was a fire that wasn't a fire, that it screamed, that it wouldn't stop screaming. Glenn couldn't tell me a lot because I guess Nicole's the only one in town who still remembers, but she doesn't talk about it anymore. And Glenn said everyone else who survived left, or, well, you know, it's been 30 years. But Glenn said that there's been a few times when it's come up, that there have always been rumours about what Nicole said at the time, that no one believed it, that no one believed her, that they thought the trauma made her remember wrong, or that her brain was just trying to find a way to make whatever happened make sense. But Glenn thought maybe the rumours about what Nicole said happened that night were true, and that it was happening again, had happened again. Mark, if what Glenn said is true, even if you have found a weakness for this thing, something bad's coming in your time. People are going to get hurt. People are gonna. And Glenn, he said one of the people involved was someone close to Nicole, that's why she never talks about it. And I know you were worried about her when I mentioned it before, and I know she means something to you, and please be okay, Mark. I need you to be okay.
I couldn't stop thinking about that bonfire Bill made out in that place on the edge of town, you remember? He set this massive fire and just walked into it. I see it in my sleep. I see it when the sun hits my eyes in the afternoon. I see it at night when I put the kids to sleep. It's what you were saying about Nicole and whatever happens to her. I know you've been skirting around it, or maybe you've not looked into it for the same reason I haven't brought it up. I'm not there in your time. We know what that means. This thing is chasing me, whether it's Bill or something else that's using him. There's a reason I can't stop seeing that fire. I have to go out and meet it, otherwise it'll come for me. So I went out and met it. I went to that little place on the edge of town where Bill stepped into the fire. I went there in the middle of the night when no one was there. The night was so cold, I thought I was going to freeze right there on the spot. The wind was whistling off something. I was going to just go and check it out from the outside, but I couldn't help myself. I smashed a window and I went inside. It was so strange to be in there. It was like the whole place was dead. There was nothing on the walls, and it had been cleared out. The spot where the fire had been was normal. No scorch marks or ash or anything. I was going to walk out when I felt this pushing on my head like a really bad headache. And then there was the screaming, like the whistling of the wind had gone mad. But I looked down and the jerry can was in my hand. I don't remember bringing it in. Had I brought it in? Before I knew what I was doing, I was pouring petrol all over the place. It was splashed all over the walls and the floor. Even some made it up onto the roof. There was this weight as if I was being held back, but I was unstoppable. And then I walked out of the building and I was holding a match. It was lit. And I just threw it inside the building and let it burn and burn and burn. And the screaming just kept going until there was nothing but rubble. When I could feel it running like a strong wind across the town to Bill.
Mark, I don't know how all this works, the time travel, past and future part of it all. And you're right, I haven't asked about you. I haven't asked anyone about you because to me you're still alive, right? So just don't talk like it's over because it isn't. You're not. You're still alive. All right? And you have to stay that way. You have to try to, please. If the past is still happening now for you, then nothing's set in stone yet. So you can't. It's the fair this weekend. It's happening and I'm not ready for it to be happening. People are already setting up. The fairground's going up on the edge of town. They're putting bunting and lights up in the main street. And they're setting up the bonfire grounds. Daryl and Ed from the CFS were down there all day today checking everything was safe, setting up the site properly. It's happening, Mark. And I've raided Grandad's garage for all the jerry cans he had, and I've got Glenn asking around. I feel like a doomsday prepper, and we're building a stash, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know how I'm going to get it to the bonfire or how I'm going to use it. Bill, he's been, Grandad got home this week. He's still not himself properly. I don't know how much of it is Bill and how much of it is. I just don't know. But Bill, he showed up yesterday at Grandad's. I've been staying there since he got back, and so I was helping wash up after lunch when he showed up. And Mark, he sat down with us at the kitchen table. And Nan made him a cup of tea, and he said that Grandad was right. Admitted to the town funds, the money, all of it. Said he shouldn't have reacted the way that he did. Said he was stepping down. That he would be resigning after the fair. And that he'd turn the evidence over. That he'd take the fall. It's not like him, not after your stories, not after what I've seen, which makes me think that what's about to happen is so bad that Bill doesn't care about the consequences after this weekend. That maybe he's admitting to it because he knows it doesn't matter anyway. That there'll be no one round to make him face up to it. So you're not allowed to die, and I'm not allowed to die because this thing, we have to make it pay for what it's done to Patty, to my granddad, to Nicole, to everyone that it's hurt. I want it to hurt. I want it to scream. I want it to die.
Elle, it's all right. I can't let this keep going on. Past, present, future, I don't know how it all works. I don't know what'll happen, but it's me. I'm here first. That means I need to deal with it first. I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I've got to do my bit to stop it. For you, for your granddad, for Patty, for Nicole. Derbon's heart is its community, and a community needs leaders. And you're a leader, Elle. You could have thrown this thing away and let them all burn, but you didn't. I'm sorry yours didn't see that way. Hopefully they know. You deserve. Bill. A bit late, eh? Wasn't sure if you'd even turn up, you filthy coward. Not so strong without your friends behind you, burning up all your problems. Without them, you're just a sad little man who wants some power. What? Nothing to say now, mate? You've been pretty in control so far, and now wipe that filthy smile off your face. You don't get to smile after what you're going to do to me, my family, to that sweet, strong girl in 2015. It ends here, now. I don't care if you're the boss of this thing or just some puppet, but if I take you down, then Derbon is safe. I've seen what this does to you, mate. I've seen you shaking in fear, and you're fired too. At first I didn't know what was going on, but then it clicked. You want it all yourself. If you own the fire, then you own the power. You're not the only one who can play with fire, mate. I've seen into the future, and it told me that I'm there. I'm alive. But I accept what this brings. This one's for you, Nicole.
Hi. I've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes trying to figure out what the first thing I wanted to say was. I still really don't know how to start this. I guess I should start with I'm fine. I'm safe. I'm a little banged up, but I think it's over, Mark. I think we did it. You did it. But I wanted to tell you what happened. I wanted you to know how it all. So, fair kicked off on Saturday. All the usual suspects and so many people. Mark, I know Bill did it because it wanted to do this horrible thing to hurt, to destroy. But you've been talking about the Derbon spirit this whole time and it was there. There was so much of it. And everyone was laughing and chatting and giving to the community. And I kept having these moments where I'd forget all the crap that's been happening, where I'd forget to be scared. Because it all just felt so alive. I helped Glenn at the library stand. I walked around with Granddad and Nan. I bought my dad one of Nicole's chocolate croissants as a peace offering. And I watched Bill. I know that he was still there even after whatever you did in your time, but he was busy that whole weekend talking to people, jumping on the radio, showing off the town, which meant he wasn't there to see me sneak off to the billabong early, wasn't there to see me hide the gas in the trees, wasn't there to see me pour out a whole jerry can over the fire pit before it was even lit. The rest of everyone else started arriving for the bonfire around 9. Bill was up the front with the guy from the TV. And God, Mark, everyone was there. Tourists, locals, families, everyone had a picnic blanket and camp chairs. And there were so many kids with sparklers and glow sticks and, those cheap plastic ones that light up all colourful. Put myself halfway between the bonfire and the stash. I don't know, maybe I should have been closer to the stash, but I wasn't sure what would happen when it was lit. Wasn't sure whether I'd need to run back to the trees or forward to Bill. There were so many people, Mark. So Bill stood up the front and gave this speech about community and reinvigoration and a new life for Derbon. And when he finished, he looked at me. Right at me. And then the TV guy stepped up and lit the fire. It went up way faster than anyone expected. There was this rush and the screaming, the same screaming. And it started to burn. And I saw it, the face in the fire, Bill's face, like a mirror, like an echo. And the fire moved and Bill moved like he was a puppet on a string, like he wasn't Bill anymore. Like maybe he hadn't been Bill for a long time. He was just it. But then I looked at the fire again and it was wrong. Frozen in stops and starts, like you said it got that one time, the first time you showed it, the gasoline, and it kept screaming, always screaming, and I could see it in the fire and in Bill. The moment it realised something was wrong, that it was hurting, that it was weak, and Bill looked murderous, and he was still looking at me. I ran for the jerry cans, but I couldn't get there fast enough. Bill grabbed me, and where he grabbed me, it burned like the fire was there under his skin. He had my arm, tried to get a hand around my throat. I held it back, but it burned, Mark, through my clothes, through my skin. The flame felt like it was trying to get inside me too. I screamed to Glenn, to anyone really, to grab the jerry cans, to throw them on the fire on Bill, to stop them. And the bonfire, it was reaching out. It was like on the farm, it was only reaching for the people. And Bill, where he was holding me, it felt like there was fire in my blood, like he was going to turn my bones to ash while they were still inside me. And then I saw Nicole. And she was walking out of the trees with a jerry can in each hand, straight towards the fire. She was so brave, Mark, and there was this look like she knew. Like maybe she knew better than any of us. And the fire, it was screaming so loud I couldn't hear my own voice, and Bill was still holding me, squeezing. And Nicole, she didn't even pause. She just took the cans and poured. The fire tried to stop her. It was reaching like hands, like claws. It was burning at her clothes, at her skin, but it was like she didn't notice. She just poured the fuel, and Bill screamed, and the fire screamed. And Bill let me go and turned to run at Nicole. And you should have seen her, Mark. She didn't panic. She didn't even flinch. She just met his eye and started walking back. She never broke his gaze. She was so calm. And by the time he grabbed her, she was on the bank. And she only needed one more step to throw them both into the billabong. Second Bill hit the water, the fire, it was gone. In an instant, in a breath, like maybe it had never even been there. There wasn't even any ash, no burns on the wood. And people were screaming and running, and it got so loud and so quiet all at the same time. I don't really remember the next bit. But then my granddad was next to me, and my mum and dad were talking to an ambo, and Glenn was standing nearby, and he was soaking wet, and Nicole was being rolled away on a gurney. And now I'm here in the hospital, and they said she's going to be fine, Mark. She's asleep right now, and, well, I shouldn't be in here really. I should be back in my room letting my burns heal, but Andrew agreed to smuggle me in for a few minutes, and while she was here with me, she told me a story about their dad, about how 30 years ago they lost him in a fire that he started, a fire that the police agreed to keep the details quiet of for the sake of the family, a fire that only Nicole saw. Andrea said she said their dad had been distracted. He'd been sneaking out of the house. He'd been nervous and paranoid and scared, and they'd all been worried about him, and that the last night he snuck out the house that Nicole had followed him. that she'd seen her dad and a man with large glasses, and that her dad had poured gasoline, lit a match, that they'd burned, and the fire had screamed. Andrea, her mum, all the police, they thought he'd, that with the way he'd been acting, they thought that he'd done it to hurt people, but that Nicole had always said that it was the fire that was evil, that her dad that he'd been saving them, that he'd been a hero. I asked about Bill. They didn't find anything, no body, no remains, just a pair of glasses. I think whoever Bill was, the real Bill, I think you did stop him that night, Mark. I think whoever was here in my time, that he was just the thing, using a face that knew would be useful. And I also think that what you did, what Nicole saw that night, that must have been how she knew what to do, that must have been how she was able to save us, that she could only end this thing because of what happened that night 30 years ago. You're a hero, Mark. You saved Derbon, you saved Nicole, and you saved me.
You've been listening to Best Left Forgotten. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Best Left Podcast, and on our Best Left Forgotten Facebook page, where we post updates, info, and additional content. Music by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Cover art by Caddy Wampus, who can be found on Fiverr. Thanks to Jess Wolfendale, our editor, Miriam Feats, our social media manager, and Nathan Quadro, our GM and producer. If you enjoyed our podcast today, please leave a review and tell your friends.